Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking again about the Sherman filterbank because it's an awesome device and it can do so much more than just what we modeled last time. Mainly it has 3 or you could even say 4 different filter types. It has low pass, band pass, high pass, and notch, which is all realized within kind of 2 filters. You can blend from low pass to high pass via band pass seamlessly. And the notch filter is realized by tuning the 2 filters apart from each other and using a high pass and a low pass and using them in series. That's also something we can do. The Sherman can route the filters serial or parallel. And that's pretty much it for the beginning. And let's see how we can model this in the grid. First, serial filtering. And now we have a parallel routing, but I want to route filter 1 into filter 2's input and then only filter 2 to the output. For that, we need to build a little construct. And yeah, let's use a select in. Place one here and one here. So while now this input has to be routed here. Now in the neutral state, nothing will happen. This input is active and this input will be ignored. But when we go to serial mode, we want this filter to come in here, and then this device and this device both switch to output 2. And I'm going to use a button for this. I would love to have kind of a remote macro device, but that's not available. But the button kind of can serve as something similar. Let's put this up here, or maybe not. I just don't want too many cables. That's the only reason why I'm doing this. And now we're grabbing another button and the modulator out and turn these buttons on remotely. And this is parser. And now you can see when I enable this button, configuration jumps from parallel to serial. Is it correct? This one goes in here. This one goes into the filter. Now let's hear how this sounds. Of course, the filter spread in this mode, in serial mode, will not have the same effect because, one filter has a higher frequency, the other one a lower frequency, so they will actually work a bit against each other. Might still be interesting to work a little bit with the spread, but in general, I would kind of advise you to leave it roughly in the center position. And as you can hear, the filter sounds a lot steeper. In fact, the result is a 4-pole filter with however, slightly different properties than, just switching this one to 4-pole. Because let's say, we have a saturation stage here, and then we have a saturation stage here. And when a filtered signal arrives in this input and is already, has a high amplitude and some resonance, the filter will react differently. So let's see what happens. Here we still have the saturation knob. Let's turn this off for the moment. Yeah, as you can hear, it has an interesting, not too extreme in this case, but nice little effect. What I also realize here is that whenever I increase saturation, the volume gets louder. So, which I usually don't want. So what I can do is just map this to a certain extent to the attenuator, which then roughly corrects for the increased gain. It's not precise, and also the amplitude change is different when we work in parallel mode. Yeah, but so it's roughly kept, and that's all I need. So now we have a filter that works in parallel or in series and turns into a 4-pole. Now we also could do is introduce some stereo imaging. We have a pan here after all. Double this and name it stereo. Now apply it to stereo knobs. Now for best effects, I mean, this only works when the filters are in parallel and we use the spread. Interesting. This is, of course, something that Sherman cannot do because it's a mono device, but since we're here in the grid, let's do it. Okay, now we have 3 different filter types. Now let's just select everything and duplicate it. Now switch this to bandpass 2-pole, bandpass 2-pole. I mean, just make sure that you wire everything up before you start copying. It just saves you a lot of work. And now, how do we mix them together? Because in the Sherman, you can blend between the modes seamlessly. I, of course, do not know how the inner workings look like, but I assume it works something like that. So we can take a merge. Let's give it 4 inputs. Did I say 3 filter types? It's 4. And now connect the mixer output to the first, to the second. The third one will be a high pass. Let's take a 2-pole here as well. 2-pole. Connected. And now we have the notch filter. It's so now let's have a look at the notch filter. Yeah, the notch filter consists of a 2-pole low pass and a 2-pole high pass. And now you can see the low pass has a higher frequency than the low pass. So they overlap. So we don't have any notch. But when I go here and move the spread in the opposite direction, we now see that the low pass ends here and the high pass here. So when we look at the frequencies band, we will get a dip between, I don't know, can't read the frequencies here. It's roughly like 300 hertz and 2K. So let's wire everything up. Now we just need a value device connected, name it. It is low pass, band pass, high pass, and notch. And by default, this device is set to linear, which means we can fade between these different states. From low pass to band pass to high pass to notch. With notch, we have to remind that we have to be in a negative area with the spread, but it might also be interesting to use it in this direction. Now let's hear. So now, of course, we have to wire it up. And now let's see how this notch filter sounds like. I don't need this right now. But if we look at if you look at the frequency band, we can see the hole that we have in here. And it has this kind of phaser-like quality, which is typical for notch filters. And we can now also blend between them. We got very interesting results depending on how we blend these filter types together. Well, here we have a pretty massive volume increase, so I might just want to add an attenuator here, just for convenience to level things a little bit out. Bandpass is usually a bit lower in volume, so we can increase it here a little bit. Change this to an amplifier. I can give it a little bit. So that gives us a lot of interesting possibilities. And yeah, we have all the filter modes. We can switch between mono and serial. So this is quite epic already, but now we want to have some modulation capabilities because, yeah, after all, this is Bitwig. And the Sherman as well has CV inputs for cutoff modulation, for amplitude modulation, for resonance, I'm not sure, but it has quite a few inputs and also MIDI. So yeah, let's give it a few devices. Always lovely and used all the time in Psytrance, the famous sample and hold device. I don't want to use the modulator out which it comes with because I want to place an attenuation device in between, and then random CTF, duplicate it, random, let's apply this to the spread. Now we increase the modulation to 100%. Now we can control with this knob how much we want to apply. And this one, I want to usually put it on hold and let it be triggered with incoming note. Nice. Now we can, of course, duplicate this, and we also need an LFO. So let's just change this device to an LFO, rename it. Now map this again. This time, yeah, 100% is fine. And spread. But here I want to be able to apply the cutoff in both directions. So we're going to change this to, no, we want to turn this into a bipolar device. So here is actually nothing. So especially when you apply something like a sawtooth. Okay, this is on hold now. Yeah, that's the reason why I want it to be bipolar. Now, this one probably won't be triggered by incoming notes, but I can change this. And I already mentioned before in other videos that I'm not a big fan how the speed control here is implemented. So, but there's a workaround, as pretty much always in Bitwig. I mean, set this to kilohertz, and we're going to construct an LFO which is full range from 0 to I think 30,000 hertz. So grab a level device and a modulator out, hook this up and modulate the speed here. Now we still have a problem. I mean, even this one, not level, turn it to a value. So even at the lowest setting, the filter here or the LFO here will already run at least 30 hertz, which is way, way too fast. Yeah, you can hear it already has this kind of almost bit crusher like quality because it's already running so fast. So what can we do against this? It's relatively easy. We can go to phase and grab a bend device. And when you pull this all the way down, as you can see, now values until about center position won't do much. It will stay very, very, very close to 0 and then rise exponentially. This is also how actually pitch is perceived. It is an exponential curve. So it makes sense, in my opinion, to control these values in this way. Anyway, and now let's listen to it. Now it works. Now we have one knob, a full range LFO. Okay, next. The Sherman also filters an envelope. So let's give it an envelope. We, of course, can also give it segments, but for now, let's grab a simple device. And while the Sherman uses audio trigger to trigger its envelope, or MIDI, I think, is possible as well. Here we have the possibility to just listen to the channel's MIDI signals, which is most of the time better. But of course, if you really want to emulate this behavior, you could create an audio trigger in Bitwig here as well. Let's create a simple curve. And let's duplicate these devices. Envelope and envelope. Yeah, same. Hey. And here as well, we want this device to be bipolar so that we can apply the envelope in both positive and negative directions. Yeah, this output. Yeah, interesting. 0. And what I find also to be an interesting option is to not use the input signal as FM source, but a simple sine wave or sawtooth oscillator. So it's just as an alternative. So let's go with the sine wave because we can skew that into a saw wave if we want. For now, let's just replace the FM input completely. Really nice. Yeah, so let's play around a little bit. Little MIDI melody here. Let's turn on the delay here. Yeah, as you remember, notch filters, for the notch filter to work, we have to put the spread in a negative position. Personally, I'm a big fan of kind of a mix between low pass and band pass, or low pass and high pass. So let's move it kind of a little bit into the band pass region. And FM is particularly nice with increased resonances. Now I realize this is extremely sensitive, so let's do something about it. Find FM and then control this FM knob, but only up to, let's say, around 10%. So we have a lot smoother control here. So I think this sums it up pretty much. And while we have to be honest, it does not sound like a Sherman, but it has the same kind of functionality, and it sounds pretty awesome in its own right. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with my new filter bank, and yeah, I hope you find it useful as well. Let's recap real quick. We have a low pass filter, we have band pass filter, we have a high pass filter, we have a notch filter. We have the ability to switch from parallel to serial filtering, and we can even introduce stereo spread, which is interesting. For example, when you modulate the spread at audio rate, we have saturation. We could add something at input, more input saturation, output saturation. And yeah, from last time, we still have this phase oscillator, which can serve as a amplitude modulation source or ring modulation. And then we have an ADSR, a sample and hold device, and an LFO, full range from 0 to 32,000 hertz as modulation sources, which can be applied to cutoff and spread, respectively. Now, of course, it makes a lot of sense to map these devices to pages here. Yo, this sums it up. I hope you have fun with the new filter device, and see you next time.